Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, this was one that we did up on Heart's Home, our newest channel. Again, we invite everybody to join us over at Heart's Home. This is it right here. It's basically our spiritual home where everything is completely spiritually based, and a lot more how-to over there. We're only 19 people away from 3,000, so we're very excited about that.
Hooray!
And then we did this was a Patreon exclusive and also an exclusive over on memberships. And again, we want to thank everybody for your support in those lines.
It is so appreciated, you guys. Thank you, thank you. We cannot do this without help.
So I just got a blue light screen protector, and Cindy got us some glasses too. Not that we wear glasses outside. I do think that there's something to letting the sunlight naturally come through.
Yeah, I got the glasses for the phones.
But yeah, the glasses are for viewing the phones. So this has made I noticed a difference right away. I have gotten kind of like headaches from being on the computer. Like if we're doing like an hour's or 2 hours worth of research and putting the video together, and then we're doing a live for like another hour, and then there's uploading and 3-4 hours, and my head feels like it's going to explode looking at the computer monitors. And there are these blue light screen protectors that can't help, and it's very noticeable, the difference that we just got one in, put it on. Yeah, kind of expensive, but I think it's well worth it. I notice huge difference because literally it's been giving me pineal pains, because I do think the frequencies are all about attacking our pineal gland.
It is. And, there's just so many things involved with the blue light exposure. If you're being exposed to it, it can really kind of screw up your internal clock. I mean, it really, if you're able to block out that blue light, it helps boost alertness, mood, and your cognitive function. There's so many good things about Xing out this blue light. And face it, we're in a world where we really have to work with this energy. So the best way to do it is to arm yourself a little bit.
Yeah, our friend and brother Zach from Colorado, he had sent me like an article, a little video, and it was talking about the positive aspects of energy work with colors and visualizations, but then also talking about what the system has done and how there's like negative shading and frequencies that are used to kind of attack us in a very, very low-key, subliminal way, but very, very real. So again, I would say this seems to be very worth it. I've noticed a difference right away as soon as we put a screensaver. It's not a screensaver. It's a light hits your eye saver, really.
Yeah, it's a blue light blocker.
Blue light blocker might also definitely help your brain in more ways than one. Pluto return to the U.S., we've talked about this. I want to remember everybody. It goes back to February in 2022, and there's been so much going on. Everything that we're watching is all about remaking the U.S. and then also the entire global system. Big to do right now. A lot of energy and attention is going on DC and then possibly elsewhere. When you look at the moves that 47 is doing, U.S. military preparing for National Guard activation in Washington, D.C., so say officials. U.S. military is preparing for the activation of hundreds of National Guard troops to Washington, D.C., two U.S. officials told Reuters on Sunday. The officials were speaking on the condition of anonymity. They said a final decision was still to be made by 47, but the troops were prepared to deploy. It was unclear what exactly are they going to do. Are they going to take part in effect to protect federal agents or carry out administrative tasks? Well, he's been making he made some speeches. Let's listen.
It is. We have other cities in America, and New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say.
So, yeah, clean up D.C. and then move on to New York City, Baltimore, and Oakland. You know, I don't trust any stats. There are some stats that show crime is literally down in some of these cities, but I don't trust any of the stats because, again, where do these stats come from? They ultimately are being funded by people with agendas, and you know, it appears that there's conflicting agendas going on, and at the same time, I don't see anybody that we're looking at as a white hat. You know, it's all different shades of gray. And, you know, these people, again, are in the positions that they're in. To be a billionaire, you have to have an enormous ego. And you have to also be looking out for yourself first. And so I don't see any, there's no saviors here. We are the saviors, each of our own self. And that's what needs to be realized. As we keep looking for others to do things for us, we're never going to take hold of the reins ourselves. So how do you do it then? How do you actually, you know, straighten this out? I do think ultimately it's going to lead to a lot of breakaway civilizations. I think it's going to lead to the system disintegrating from within. Every single president has been like, it's like a pendulum, swings to the left, then it comes back, swings to the right, and it goes farther to the left, and it goes farther to the right. Eventually, it's going to topple the whole system over, and that, I think, is the ultimate purpose, because they want to rewrite it a certain way.
Right, and if they're the ones who destroy it, they're the ones who can come back in and rewrite it. But back to the people, the break off civilizations, that's something where you need assets, you need a way to get everything into alignment. I mean, it costs money to go out and have yourself self-sufficient. You have to, you know, if you're going to have a farm animals, it takes time to raise these animals, takes food to feed these animals. I mean, it's not so easy just to say, hey, let's just go, go over here and do our own little thing. It's not that easy. It's tough.
Yes, and the system will sacrifice in order to keep pushing forward its ultimate agendas. And even though somebody like 47 may have a higher self that is of a much higher frequency, it's again that connection. How good is the connection between the lower embodied self and the higher self? If we are not keeping our frequency as high as possible, and we're not valuing and doing the things to keep our frequency as high as possible, if we allow ourselves to be pulled down in frequency, then again, it doesn't really matter, you know, as far as what the higher self is, if the lower self is disconnected from the higher self. I hope I get that across properly.
You do, yeah.
Okay. So this is Carrie Lake saying, I can't wait. These are very dangerous, some cases drugged out, deranged, psychotic people roaming the streets in D.C. Everybody is sick of it. Talking again, this is 47, about the news conference in the White House. It's going to make the Capitol safer and more beautiful than it ever was before. The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay far from the Capitol. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong. It's all going to happen very fast, just like the border. We went from millions pouring in to zero in the last few months. This will be easier. Be prepared. There's no Mr. Nice Guy. We want our capital back. Again, it's ultimately the system that creates the problem. You know, again, you have so many people that go off to war. They're traumatized and you know, they've been really damaged from what they've seen and experienced in war. And then they come back. And a lot of times they can't handle society and they get addicted to different medicines that are perfectly legal, when prescribed by a DR, nonetheless takes them down a dark path. You know, addiction to alcohol and different substances. Yet there are some natural substances which are illegal, which are not as dangerous in some cases through studies and just long-term usage. And again, there's many of those substances as well. which are illegal, which are not as dangerous as what is legal. And it's again because there's money to be made. And, the system is what creates a lot of these drugged out, deranged, and psychotic people. So that's not, to me, showing any sort of compassion. Yeah, are there bad eggs? There are, there are bad eggs, but again, it's usually some sort of trauma, abusive father, something like that, or a mother that does things that she shouldn't do, or doesn't give love that she should have given, probably because she was traumatized from the beginning. This is the cycle of trauma that needs to be addressed, and it really is. It's caused by the system itself.
When we're dealing with cyclical trauma, I mean, it really does start with you. If we were able to sit down and help heal ourselves and help heal each other, and there's plenty of plant medicine out there that, if someone is hurt, and if you start them out on plant medicine and a good diet, I don't think there's anything that cannot be fixed. It's when something happens and then you're forced into the system, and then that can make it very difficult for the plant medicine to work later on. But if we start with our children, and I know some amazing mothers who are doing it all for their children, that's holistically based. So we do have a very large group of children that are coming up in this world who are going to be just completely wonderful in every way and not be hooked into the system. I mean, sometimes you need what you need, and I get that. We do what we have to do. But I think there's a better way to go about it. It's going to have to start with our children.
Yeah, I think, again, if we live a more balanced, rooted, and grounded life, again, that's going to be the thing that's going to allow us to blossom. So often it's these system things that blow everything up. Mayor Adams announces over 1,000 homeless New Yorkers moved from subways to permanent homes in a variety of different places, and they don't give you the exact locations either, which always hits me as, gosh, maybe I'm traumatized by Soylent Green. The Soylent Green is people.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little traumatized by that, but that was part of the big reveal from that movie. I think that movie was back in like 73 or something. How do you take care of the homeless problem? Again, well, part of this just goes back to we spend more money on killing people than helping people. And yet, really, I think the whole taxation system is just theft. It is theft, and it's even unconstitutional. So it's the system. Everything about this system is absolutely upside down, inside out. We need to change the system. I think it will change. It will change, and how is it going to change? I think in very small groups and individuals, one individual at a time. It's just horrible the filth. I honestly don't know how anybody could live in any cities right now, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I have a problem even going into a city of 40 or 50,000 and staying in it for an hour or two makes me kind of sweat. It's just way too much energy. And at the same time, we know they really, really don't want you out in the countryside. And what we're seeing right now with, why hasn't the Fed cut rates? Well, part of it is because they want Vanguard, BlackRock, and these other real estate conglomerates to buy up as much private property as they can. And they're allowing them to do it by, again, not making it easier for average people to go ahead and get a mortgage. And even with that, we might think that our home is our best investment. But if you look at it in regards to the way inflation goes over the years, you're not really making money on it. But at the same time, rent, you're just losing totally. So they do want to make it a global world of renters, even where you're literally renting your own underwear. You're not going to own anything, is the big, saying out of Klaus's mouth. Now, Klaus isn't with us anymore, at least in that public sense like he was, and we're thankful for that. I wish we could see all the rest of them just disappear off into the nightmarish sunset. But we need to come up with something that's better. You're not going to get billions of people to agree on things. So this is where it has to get broken down into smaller pieces. Man, if we could just have some, let's just call it like true free zones, a no government zone, and you might think it's going to be anarchy and lawlessness, but when we look at it, the government has been the biggest source of lawlessness. And I don't mean just the US, this is every single world government that we have. If we have a small government that resists this, they get taken over. If they don't adopt, a Rothschild banking system, they'll find themselves invaded at some point or another.
They will, so this is something that, I don't know, we have to overcome somehow, some way, and we'll have to do something different. And I think that different thing is where we spend our money. If you can at all spend your money on holistic practices, that's where we want to point our energy in something that's different.
And here we have Democrats to cut off the water to California ranchers with no warning. And there's been a lot of this going on over the years. It's not necessarily new. It might just be new with the individuals at a particular town. But here you go. We're just kind of looking at having to go out of business, because that's what we do here is raise cattle. And if we don't have any water, that's going to be taken away from us. We'll go dry. What do you do with dry land that you can't grow anything on? We're going to have to go out of business. And then it'll be bought out. And it'll be like a Monsanto or something that comes in and goes ahead and establishes a new business, providing everybody here, Americans in this case, Californians and the rest, with food that none of us that are awake want anything to do with. None of us. We don't want GMO. A lot of other countries won't take the food that Americans are forced to eat, or at least given the opportunity to buy this food at a cheaper cost than organic, when organic is normal. Again, conventional is abnormal. It's just a back-assward, upside-down world. And these poor people, they've worked their life doing this, and they're being forced out. But they're just so typical. Here's another guy speaking about another farmer has his water shut off by Newsom and the California Democrats. Turn off my water today. Can't pay my bills because I can't grow any crops. Leave my water on. Defy the water board. They'd sue me, take my farm. So either way, I'm going to lose my farm. And it's because they want to feed us food that's going to dumb us down more and cut months and years off of our life. Now, that's just my opinion. But I think it's pretty obvious. And I would take an IQ test up against Newsom or Trudeau any day. I don't think any of these politicians are very intelligent when you get down to it. I think a lot of them are idiots. But the reality is they are willing to do things to get themselves ahead that many people, and I think none of you guys would be willing to do. Mm-mm. And that's sell out other people to get yourself ahead. That's what it means to be a politician in this day and age.
It's a mess.
Yeah, and Gavin Newsom is also letting the Chinese buy up Pacific Palisades land. American contractor works in both Pacific Palisades and Altadena area, confirms Chinese nationals are calling him asking to buy up 5 to 6 lots at a time. China is buying so many properties, it's going to turn both Altadena and Pacific Palisades into, where the signage might actually be in 2 languages. Maybe it'll be in Mandarin and English. Maybe it has to be in 3, with Spanish as well. Now we know this area was part of Mexico, and yet it was also at one point in time inhabited by what we would call Native Americans. So one group after another, and this goes for any area we want to look at, gets booted off by another group. So like Texas, you have Mexico laying claim to that, but before that you had different small tribes that laid claim to that. And, the small tribes were eradicated, pushed away. We were talking about, both Cindy and I, we both have family that were on the Trail of Tears, for instance, being uprooted. And yet I also have family that probably did the uprooting too. And so many of us are like that. We have such mixed lineages because they always mix it up. They always put the red ants and the black ants in the same bin together. They could get along just fine, but they shake it until they attack each other. That's Cindy's favorite saying, and it's very true.
It's most appropriate to me.
So what are they doing now? Well, it seems obvious that what they want to happen, what the system wants to happen, is to hand it over to China because they feel the Chinese system has the biggest chance at lasting the longest controlling people. But ultimately, no, humans are not going to take it. Some will, some that rely on the government for everything at this point in time will continue to rely on the government for everything. But those who have more will and have still enough strength in their bodies to actually do what they have to do will find ways to be self-sufficient and also, again, come together with like-minded other people that are like-minded. I think about remote viewer Dick Algier again in his talk with Inspired, and he was talking also about these groups of people that are getting together and they're all buying public land together in the same area. Not to be a community where one person owns all the land and everybody else comes and lives on their property, but to be in the same area so they each have their own little piece of the pie and yet they work together. That is a good model, I think could work. You just have to get to know people, and that takes time. But what they're doing right here, right now, is exactly what happened to the U.S. The U.S. rose to prominence. It dominated the geopolitical situation, and now it's just simply passing the torch on to China. Is what at least let's say we again saw Klaus, saying what a great job our comrade Xi Jinping has done. What a great job China does. Well, they do make very good, inexpensive guitars, and sometimes like 1/5 the price at what other people will charge. Like if you compare, say a Gibson or a Fender, just to talk about that particular industry, which many people now feel is ruined because you can't compete. So it's easy to see what 47 is doing, and it does make a lot of logical sense, but it may be 10, 20, 30 years too late. But at the same time, if you don't start, you're never going to reverse the way things are going. At the same time, the signs are that 2025 has probably been the year that they have pegged for the direct confrontation, but I think our wills and our will also to speak up and to awaken people to the fact that this is all scripted, that could change this, and we could really push back, and we can totally get them off script, which is what we're really trying to do.
I think that's a wonderful plan.
And here you have unprecedented Chinese icebreaker deployment off Alaska being monitored by the U.S. Increasing presence of Chinese icebreakers. In fact, this map over here is showing some of the routes. China and Russia will work together at some point in time. If China and Russia and the BRICS nations won against the U.S. and NATO, there are many that think that it's inevitable that China and Russia would face off and eventually would have to fight each other as well. I could understand that. Yet what we need to do is we need to change the way we look at things. Here we are brought up with, it's good to be patriotic. Is it? Well, I mean, are you proud that the U.S. government booted all the indigenous Americans off their land and put them into reservations? How could you be proud of that? This is what the system does. And as I was saying, pointing out Texas. So now, maybe Texas ends up being ceded back to Mexico as part of a deal if BRICS wins in the war that comes. The only way we really win is by not having the war, or, if the war does start, and let's, hope that it doesn't, that it stops quickly, because the people end up realizing the insanity of the system that we live in and refuse to go along with it, refuse to be part of the military, refuse to be part of the policing that would be done to quell any sort of attempt for freedom from within. And again, you don't have a bloody revolution that ever turns into a long-lasting peace. It always ends up being some other form of war or revolution. So we need to break the mold. But be aware, this type of activity is definitely something to make note of. And when I think of this and the routes of the ships going up there, I just wonder if, given the long-term movement of troops, just how many troops are in, say, Alaska and Canada right now that are from China, for instance, and perhaps Russia as well. Given that there was a defector from the Soviet Union that I want to say was back in 87, 88, he said that the U.S. would be taken down from within. And, that was like 40 years ago or more. So, if you're consistently deploying and bringing troops in, some of them will obviously end up being part of the system. You get the picture. I think you do. Meanwhile, over here, this happened before too. This is, as you can see, this is a close call, right? This is, again, Philippine Coast Guard. This is in the West Philippine Sea. A ship with Chinese Coast Guard collided with a destroyer of the Philippine Coast Guard and the Chinese Coast Guard, they ended up colliding, substantial damage. This is not the first time this has happened. China has worked to protect and the fishing vessels. They have a fleet of fishing vessels which are outfitted militarily, which at times there's thousands of them off the coast of South America. We've covered this before. It's been a long time since I mentioned that. By the way, they've been off the coast of South America and Central America in the thousands. Again, each one of them could be offloading maybe 5 people that end up mingling in and eventually make their way up and over the border. So all that we've been looking at, it's still in play, but I do think the system is having a hard time getting their playbook to be coordinated properly.
And I just think monkeys are cute. I could watch this all day.
Absolutely. Again, take care of each other. Don't give in to the angst, this whatever it is that they're doing to separate us. We just have to recognize that this is, divide and conquer. And we have to look at ourselves from a different perspective. We are all individual cells in planet Earth, and we are to work together. Yes, there's evolution, but it's not Darwinian evolution. And of course, things evolve. So yes, there is evolution. But yet, at the same time, when you're talking about Homo sapiens sapiens, there was also a creation as well. And yeah, it probably did happen in a test tube and a petri dish by, again, ultra-terrestrials would be the term I would use to describe them. But it's okay. We're going to ultimately come out on top. We just can't give in to their hatred and division.
Indeed.
As always, guys, thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do it without you guys. And again, thank you for your support on Patreon and also with the memberships here as well. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.